Welcome to another edition of Regions Extra SEC Stories, where we dive into the extra stories behind the scenes of some of the greatest rivalries in all of sports. The Egg Bowl is one of the best, CD, and it traditionally is one of my favorites, especially around holiday time.
It is, holiday time. It doesn't necessarily vibe with the feelings of most holidays, but the way that this thing has always been played on or around Thanksgiving, it's really the one of the best culminations of the college football season.
We'll get some great insight over the next hour from some of the people that were a part of that great rivalry. We start with one of the legends, Houston Nutt. One of our favorite guys to talk ball with. And Coach, when I say Egg Bowl, what comes to mind?
Guys, when you say Egg Bowl, I've got to take you back because I didn't realize what a rivalry, I really didn't know what a rivalry was, okay? Because I played in the Southwest Conference days, okay, for Coach Broyles, Lou Holtz. And so think about this. So I was Arkansas and Texas was our, rival or at least it was to us. And so all of a sudden, as you fast forward, and I'm the head coach at Arkansas for 10 years, then I go to Ole Miss. Well, at Arkansas, we beat Mississippi State 9 out of 10 years and had some good games. So first year, fast forward, Ole Miss versus Mississippi State, it's the Egg Bowl. And it's a big deal. I mean, everybody's talking Egg Bowl this, Egg Bowl that, and they're talking about the history. Well, we beat them 52-6, it was great. That's awesome, right? I didn't think nothing about it. But, guys, the very next year, we have to go to Starkville. Egg Bowl this, Egg Bowl that. We're having a great year, guys. We've already won 9 games. We're going to the Cotton Bowl. We're going to play Mike Leach's team, and we get beat. Close game, we get beat in Starkville. Well, we got some horses. So Diane and I, my wife and I, we're going to go get some feed at Pontotoc. We got a little time before the Cotton Bowl, and I go to Pontotoc, go to the feed store, and this guy who's been so good to us for the first year, so happy. Second, I kind of noticed something wrong, so I said, hey, everything okay? Hey, Coach Nutt. Listen, you make sure next year you beat the Mississippi State Bulldogs. I said, we won 9. We're going to the Cotton Bowl. Houston, did you hear me? You make sure you beat Mississippi State next year. I got to put up with this for 365 days. I went home to guys. I just found out what a real rivalry is, guys.
Yeah.
You better win that last game, man. You better win the Egg Bowl. It is important, and it's so important to that state because it is truly 365 days. I didn't know that. At Arkansas, when we first made the transition, we had a former player, David Basil, who he invented this boot for the boot.
Battle of the Boot.
Battle of the
LSU,
Boot.
Arkansas, yeah.
150-pound trophy. So we had to manufacture it, and now, of course, it's the border. They got the border bowl. And so, you're always manufacturing. But the Egg Bowl taught me, first and foremost, you better win that last game, man. You better win that one. I don't care how many games you won before that. You better win that one.
Coach, why do you think that is? That's part of the reason we're doing this special on the Egg Bowl is to expose everybody outside of the state of Mississippi on just how fierce a rivalry this is. Yeah. Why is it so contentious, do you think?
It's a great question. I think it's this because people in that state, it's either Mississippi State or Ole Miss or Southern Miss, but your school is so important, and it's this pride thing. We beat y'all. And you're either Mississippi State cowbell or you're an Ole Miss Rebel or Ole Miss whatever, and it's that pride of winning that game, and it's talked about for a full year. I couldn't get over it. I could not get over the talk about. We'd be talking about a big games coming up. We got Alabama. Hey, don't forget about the Mississippi State game. Well, that's at the end of the year. But they talk about it, and I believe it's just the pride of this is my school, and we beat the other schools.
Yeah, and Coach, you were part of some of those games you talk about. It just seemed easy that first year, but then you realize there's a lot to it. Is there one of those games or a specific play that still to this day in the Egg Bowl you think, oh my God, what an unbelievable highlight or an unbelievable low light that still haunts you to this day?
Well, the first year we had a bunch of highlights because we had Parade Jerry, Dexter McCluster and Devin Sneed and Shea Hodge, and these guys were just going up and down the field. It was great. Our defense was great. Kentrell Lockett, Jamarcus Sanford, these guys were awesome. But then the very next year, it was a tight game. Dan Mullen had just taken over. And it was a tight game, and he had a little bit off, and they hadn't won that many games. They wasn't going to a bowl game. But little did I realize they had a time clock. I noticed they had a clock of counting down the minutes and the seconds till they played Ole Miss. And I said, holy cow, they've been looking for this game for a whole year, guys. And I said, I didn't do a good enough job. I didn't do a good enough job getting our guys ready. So the low life was that first year going to Starkville and realizing as good a year as we had going to a bowl game, these guys, Michael Orr never gone to a bowl game. Jason Cook and Jim, they had never gone to a bowl game. They were so excited, but we didn't take care of that last game. And so it was just that was a low life deal, especially when I went to my feed store and they're looking at me out of the corner of their eye like, come on, coach.
Hey, Coach, I'm interested in the strategy of a coach's job is to make sure his team is ready to go and motivating them. Like, was there anything that, as you went on in that rivalry with your years at Ole Miss, that you maybe did differently the week of the Egg Bowl to try to get your guys ready, or some gimmicky thing that you came up with to try to inspire them?
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing is I really started to make sure that they knew that this Egg Bowl, this last game was really important. So we put up the Egg Bowl, the picture of the Egg Bowl, and we said, it's so many days. I mean, it had a time clock on it. So we did kind of steal that and started, putting emphasis on it because I knew how so important it was in the state of Mississippi to win that game. And so it woke me up, keeping everybody attuned to, hey, we got to get ready, guys. This is it. This is the state championship, So you just find any way you can to try to get your guys ready. But this was a year-round motivation. You always kind of after the first year, after I didn't know anything about it, after being at Arkansas and winning, you always try to have your guys ready to go, whether you're home or away, no problem. And then you win the first game at Ole Miss, you say, okay, no problem.
Easy.
And it's not so easy though. And that's where that second year came in where, man, I learned a valuable lesson, and it has stuck with me forever.
So we've talked to so many great players in this rivalry, and there always seems to be, like you talk about, this angst between those. And even if you weren't born in the state of Mississippi, you learned it real quick, as you talked about. What was the relationship with you and other coaches at that point? Because I think it was right, Kroom at the end of it, and then Dan. Like, was there a proper respect? Was there almost like, all right, almost more, rivalry between those two? What were those relationships like with the coaches?
I had a great relationship with Sylvester Kroom. Loved him. I had a previous relationship. I didn't know Dan Mullen. And the thing that was a little bit off the edge for me was he would never say our name. I think he copied Jack Sherrill, the team up north. And there were some disrespectful things that would come to me that were said in the paper, just throwing it at us. I said, hey, and I'd take an article and said, this is what he thinks of us. And
so wait, you actually would use that? You use any stuff in the articles and show it to players in that rivalry?
Oh, without question. And because it was so talked about, just like what you're saying, this is the reason why we're talking about it. It got to be a little bit ugly, where it's disrespectful in my mind and in the players' mind. So we had to go. The problem is if you don't win that game, it's a problem for a whole nother year, And so we had a couple of those, and it was not fun. So to answer your question, when you don't say our name, you don't say our name, team up north, and you say a few disrespectful things, it all adds up, like, okay, guys, this is a real battle. Get ready, because we're going to go 60 minutes here.
I think what also makes it great, and you've already described it, is the unpredictability of the ball game. And like the Florida-Georgia rivalry that I was a part of, it always seemed like the favorite always wins that game. But in this one, it's the end of the year, last ball game, and it seems like, it's a great chance if you haven't had a great year to ruin the other guy's season, and it's a really tough one if you've been on a roll. Like, why is it one that craziness and chaos always ensues?
I think everybody gears up for this game, the players especially, because they hear it. They hear it for 365 days. The fans, the faculty, students, they're all just talking about this game. You take this game coming up. We all feel like, okay, Lane Kiffin and the guys, they got it rolling. They're just going to wear them out. Be careful. Be
Mm-hmm.
careful. Because it goes just what you're saying, Chris. This game, these Mississippi State Bulldogs, I hadn't even watched them play but once. I can tell you they'll play at their highest level. They'll be at their highest level with the energy. They'll buckle up both chin straps and they will come with it. No doubt about it.
And that's what makes a rivalry, right? Is when you could the proverbial throw the records out, and who knows what the heck happens, and weird things happen in that rivalry. Coach, you've been in this conference for so long, and you've seen so many great players. But when you were your time in Oxford, when you would look at Mississippi State, was there a certain player that you can recall in those Egg Bowls that just either ate you guys up, or just leading into that week, you're like, my goodness, like this guy's going to be a problem either offensively or defensively?
Well, there were several. There were several. The first one, golly, his name just escapes me too. That's a shame. What's the back that went to San Francisco?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think about it now. Of the guys, are you talking about in year one of
Yeah,
them?
yeah. Probably year 1 or 2. That would be
Anthony
2008.
Dixon. I think it's Anthony Dixon. Yeah.
Anthony, this guy was so physical, and I watched the film. He's a good player, but I saw him play at another level against us. He went to another level. He's breaking tackles, running through arms, man. I'm saying, wait a minute, this guy, he's trying to be Superman today, and we knew he was talented, but at this game, the level went up another notch, and so that sticks out to me. The defenders, the defensive guys, we knew they were tough and physical, but they seemed like they were a step quicker. They were a step quicker that day. So that's what stands out to me, guys. It's just that rivalry, and it's a good thing to talk about because it's real. Because I really didn't know that coming from Arkansas. I really didn't. I didn't have that background of we had it. I had it as a player, but when you got out of the Southwest Conference, I'm having to our guys were trying to manufacture rivals, and you got to really win and play them a lot before it's even a rival.
Yeah.
So it's a great perspective that you can bring here because you went there as a coach to Starkville, Arkansas, and you went there as a coach of the Ole Miss Rebels to Starkville. We know it's a very unique place with the cowbells and everything else. Describe why it's so challenging to go there as a coach and how much different maybe that level was raised when they're hosting the Ole Miss Rebels as opposed to any other SEC team.
Okay, first and foremost, Chris, and you probably realize this. Horrible dressing room for the visitors.
Yeah.
Horrible. I mean, it's a nice stadium, but the dressing room, we had to dress in shifts. Hey, offense go in there first, defense go in there first. We had to dress because it was so tight, and it was just an uncomfortable vibe as soon as you get in there. And what do you hear? The clanging of the cowbells. As soon as you get the bus is pulling, ring, ding, 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 ding. I mean, it is ringing in your ears as soon as you get off that bus. Oh, here we go. We're in Starkville. But it's different, though, Chris, than coming from Arkansas, coming into that deal. Yeah, it's a road game, tough environment. Still got the cowbells. But it seemed like it was just a little bit louder when I brought the Ole Miss Rebels in there. A little bit more enthusiasm and passion. A little bit more angriness. A little bit more of, y'all better be ready today. We're going to whoop y'all. As we're getting off the bus, you're hearing everything. And there's a few adjectives I won't say. But you better be ready to go, man.
It is, again, it's one of those things that seem to be kind of personifies that it just means more here in the SEC. And again, were there guys after you got done coaching, or do you have more of an appreciation for it now down the road? Or was it when you were in the moment, you just knew exactly how big this was? Has it been more romanticized over the years as you've gotten farther away from it?
Yeah, it had. I had to, as I said, I had to learn. So the first year, I wasn't really in the moment. You're always competing. You're always trying to have your team ready to go. And trying to give them the best plan, chance to win. But I didn't realize as I look back, as I look back over the years, it took me, a couple of years to say, boy, this was bigger, much bigger than I even imagined. And it meant so much to the school, state, huge game. And I didn't realize that just walking in, and probably didn't help me that we won so easily the first year. And of course, they make a change right off the bat. And I think, man, I thought they got rid of a really good coach. And but that game probably had something to do with that if you really look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, we are going to interview Dexter McCluster here in a minute. You mentioned his name as one of your players. Anything we should ask him as it relates to this game specifically?
Oh man, I tell you what, you got to treat, guys. This guy's special. What a great teammate, and unselfish. I'd be curious to see what he thinks about this game too.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't had a chance to sit down with any of the players to really talk about that game. You know,
I feel like you were ahead of, like, there's a lot of guys that get used as athletes now. You look at Zachariah Branch at Georgia now. He's kind of that guy. Isaiah McKenzie was that guy before. I feel like you guys using Dexter McCluster in that way as a utility guy way before anybody else was doing it, right?
We really were. When you look at him, I never will forget our very first meeting. Our trainer said, this guy stays in the training room a lot. I was going through all the names, and he's very little. He's 5'8.5", 5'9", 160 maybe. But then I saw this guy in fourth quarter, and I saw him in the spring. And my brother, who really was responsible for putting McFadden in this Wildcat, the trigger man. Malzahn brought the formation over, but kept the quarterback there. But when Danny said, hey, you want to make this thing work, put the guy, and Darren had played quarterback in high school a little bit and in junior high, so he had ball skills. Mm-hmm. So we found out that Dexter, come here, I want to see if you can hand the ball off. I want to see if you can send the guy in motion. I want to see if you can hand it. I know you can run it. And this guy was elite. And so when we went down, I'm going to bring up your school, Chris. So we go to the Swamp to play Tim Tebow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my gosh, man. It really made the difference. It made the difference, to be able to kind of just throw a curve in there, and you have this eye candy, this fast motion going across, and they just lose just enough. All of a sudden, Dexter's in the second level. He's in the secondary. And so, of course, your guys go on and win the I always tease Tim Tebow about, hey, man, we helped you. We made that speech you made. We made it famous, man. We made it famous. But the thing about Tim, boy, he went and backed it up. A lot of people talk it all the time, but this guy not only talked, he walked. Florida Gators go on and win the national title that year. Mm-hmm. And because of Tim and his, unbelievable leadership. But Dexter was such a winner, and he could do so many things. Punt return, kick return. Mm-hmm. And you was always worried about him getting hurt because he was small, but for 2 years for me, he was perfect.
Mm-hmm. And you had an opportunity, obviously, to kind of inherit him. And going back into it in Houston, you were a great recruiter. Were there any guys, like any recruiting stories that stand out to you when you were over at Ole Miss, of guys that you were either in a battle between Mississippi State or Ole Miss, or a battle between anybody in the conference? What's or even maybe better off, what's the one player that got away from you that you really were in on a recruiting guy and you thought this was our guy and you missed out?
I got the story for you. This is it. Fletcher Cox. All right. Fletcher Cox, guys, was committed to me and the Ole Miss Rebels for about 2 years, a year and a half. And I'll never forget. I saved that last home visit to Yazoo City, Mississippi. And if you hadn't been to Yazoo City, good luck. You got to find it on the map, brother. And so I go to Yazoo City, and I noticed after that perfect weekend with the family, that last weekend, I go to the door. I'm a little bit early for 7 o'clock home meet. I got the last visit. Nobody answered. I see a brother kind of out in the front yard, and the brother says, hey, Coach, we're good. We're good. I said, hey, I know we're good. I know Fletcher's committed to us. Just want to go over the scholarship, kind of go over signing day, get everything smooth for signing day. Just want to touch bases, see mom and everybody. Coach, you're not going to see anybody tonight. What? You're not going to see anybody tonight, Coach. Mississippi State done came by. What? Mississippi State done came by, Coach, and, hey, our electricity was off last week, but it's on now. And I'm sorry. This is business. And I'm not going to go into everything he said, but it was a killer. And so fast forward, I'm working for CBS Sports, and I go to see one of my players, Jason Peters, who played about 20 years. He's on the Philadelphia Eagles, and guess who's his teammate? Fletcher Cox. I said, hey, Fletcher, come here, man. You were committed to me, man. Coach, I know. Coach. It was business, Coach. I said, man, you were committed to me. We had this relationship. We were going. Come on. I probably could have stayed 6 more years there if I got you. Come on, what are you doing to me? I said, you hurt my career. I need you to write me a check. And so he's laughing. But bottom line is that was a big loss now that we thought we had for the entire year, That's awesome. And there's a couple more. Hey, there's a couple more players too. We could go into, but it's fierce. So it goes back. You can tie all that recruiting in, just like the game. It is fierce and competitive, and don't think the fans aren't involved, because they are.
Mm-hmm. Awesome stuff.
It is. It is the best. All right. So in closing here, Coach, we've asked everybody that's been a part of this rivalry to look at the flip side and say something nice about the rival. So what's something you can say nice about Mississippi State football?
I got it. Okay. Mississippi State football really is hard-nosed. I love their blue collar. I love the way they play. And really, I kind of like the noise. I like the cowbells now. And my wife drove to Starkville because they got the best vet school to take care of any of our horses. You go to Mississippi State, you go to Starkville. So I had some fans at Ole Miss on this side saying, hey, I heard your wife took the horses to Starkville. Yeah. Not Starkville. Yeah, they got the best veterinary doctors in the world. We got to. You can find a better place than that, And so here we go. Here we go again.
That's all.
You can't do nothing right, buddy. Not in that town, because it's that competitive spirit.
Yeah.
Man, Coach Nutt, he's still fired up. I mean, we could have gone 2 hours with him.
He knows the assignment. He knows what we're trying to do here and bringing some of the stories to light, and also how to get his team going. You could tell that that team kind of rode with the vibes that Coach Nutt had.
There's not a doubt about it. And how big is that rivalry? Well, who better to talk to than one of the men who was in the middle of it on the sidelines as well on the Ole Miss side? That's Coach David Cutcliffe. Coach, thanks for the time. And when I say the word Egg Bowl, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, you have to win it, or you will be asked to leave. Let's face it, It's funny. I'll tell you guys, I'll share this. I'm still living the Egg Bowl, but it's the Little Egg Bowl. My son is the head football coach at Oxford High School, and I actually drove over to Oxford last night to watch the Little Egg Bowl, and Knox Kiffin, Lane's son, and I visited with Lane while they were playing, and the Chargers won the Little Egg Bowl. So I'm a happy dad today.
That's awesome. And it's funny because, we've asked that question to a number of other guests, and certain things come up to mind, but nothing like you alluded to there is pressure. You have to win it. The pressure that you feel as the coach. How much did you know about this rivalry before taking over at Ole Miss, and what was the indoctrination like to just how much it means to the fans?
Well, the indoctrination was losing the first one in Starkville, that I made a bad decision to try to go for the win instead of letting it go to overtime. And old Coach Cut knew better, and I was just so eager to win the first one that I didn't. And when we were kind of, new to Oxford at that point, got interesting going around town. I would say that's a grocery store rivalry, because even buying groceries, people will not leave you alone. So it is what it is.
Because that's funny you mentioned that.
Quick, are you talking about the 99 game where you guys were up?
Yes.
I think it was like 20-6 or something like that, and threw it late. Is that what the decision we were talking about?
Yeah, I threw it late, and yeah, it just turned into a disaster. We were 4-2 in Egg Bowls in my 6 seasons there, and they were good, of course, at that time. Coach Sherrill had a really good football team. They had played the year before. Actually, we played them at Tennessee in the SEC championship game, and he came over there and started referencing the Ole Miss Mississippi State rival before that game, and I'm like thinking, Jackie, you better be worried about us. We got a pretty darn good football team here at Tennessee, and they should have a little bit more. But yeah, it's just an interesting thing to be a part of, and geographically, you're so close. I knew Alabama and Auburn growing up in the state of Alabama, but it took a game or two to understand that intensity.
Coach, you talked about walking around and seeing people at the grocery store. Oxford's such a cool place because it's so small, so intimate. The people are great. It's got to be awesome when you're winning, but when you're losing, I'm sure it's a little more challenging. As you talked about, like what is the dynamic of that state itself and how intermingled? I imagine not only the Ole Miss coach, but the Mississippi State coaches with the community there.
Well, I think it's beyond community; it's statewide. I think that Mississippi State and Ole Miss. I'm not belittling Southern Miss or anybody else that plays football. There's some great HBC programs in the state, but those, as it goes with Mississippi State and Ole Miss, the state's happy or not. You've had. I mean, Johnny Vault. I spent time with him. That's where I really learned about the Egg Bowl, and he told he had different era. He told me, he said, quit playing Alabama and Auburn so much and get yourself ready to play Mississippi State. I said, yes sir, that sounds good. But
we heard that, Coach. We heard that from Jackie Sherrill talking about how back in the day Bear Bryant said Alabama didn't play LSU or Ole Miss because they wanted to retain better records for the bowls. I mean, how crazy a time is that, and how differently are we doing things today?
Yeah, well, here, think about this. Similar conversation is playoffs, 12 teams, 16 teams, whatever it ends up. Are we going to play 9 games in conference? Yes. But at the same time, you hear a lot of conversation about strength of schedule. Who you going to play outside the league? And you got teams trying to line up the same way Coach Vault and Coach Bryant did, trying to get that record. There weren't near as many bowl games. That was your playoffs. The regular season was a playoff. There weren't near as many bowl games, and the magic was the Sugar Bowl. But if you didn't get that, there were other good bowl games. And Archie and I talk about that a lot, because he was a part of that Coach Vault era. And I love the history of the Southeastern Conference because I grew up in it. And wow, just when I think, and y'all can check this, when I took the job in '99, the record against Alabama and Auburn wasn't big numbers. I don't know if they'd played 18 times, 16. I mean, it was crazy. Then Coach Vault, y'all like this when Coach Vault told me, he said, David, he said, I'm going to tell you what you need to do now. LSU, that's a big game. He said, the week before you play LSU, you get Chattanooga or somebody scheduled, but you pay them, but you make them run LSU's offense and defense. It'll get you ready.
So, and did you actually do that? Would he say that? He would say, hey, we're going to pay you a fee, but I need you to kind of do this?
He said I can't verify that. He said he did it. I would have Coach Vault come over once a month just to have lunch, and that was the old AA building that we were in there. People have no idea in '99 what Ole Miss looked like. But he would come over and we would have the best of times. And I had great respect for him and love for him. And, Robert Kayat, who had played at Ole Miss, was the chancellor that hired me there. So, the Egg Bowl was big to Coach Vault. The Egg Bowl was big to Dr. Kayat. And, I'll tell you one great story I did for the Egg Bowl. I had a great idea. We had gotten beat, and I turned it into Code Blue. Okay, that was that week, it was definitely code blue. Everybody in that program better be better. And then we're on the field on, I think it's Thursday practice. And I had it set up. We had this big dummy made, and it had Mississippi State stuff. Put it up in the stadium. We're down on the practice field. And I started hollering. I said, hey, who are you? You're spying on us. So we had a big old strength coach, Ruben Mendoza. I said, Ruben, go get him. The next thing you know, Ruben's at the top of the stadium. He's wrestling with this big dummy and throws it over the side of the stadium, and it falls to its death on the practice field. Now, needless to say, those boys were fired up at that point in time. And things started turning for us in the Egg Bowl when we went to Code Blue. Some of the former coaches still reference it that coached for us in that period. They'll have a big game and they'll send me a text, Coach Cut, Code Blue this week, brother. Code Blue. All right.
The history of Code Blue is that's amazing. And in the years that you coached there, is there a favorite one of the Egg Bowls that you participated in?
Well, I hate to do this to Coach Sherrill, but the one in Starkville where it rained cats and dogs. I mean, the ball was sitting in water, and they always took great pride in their field, which they have a great field. But Eli was a senior. We were really good. They didn't score. We beat them. I can't recall. It may have been 30-0, or it may not be
31-0, Coach. It was 31-0 there in 03.
Okay. So not only did we beat them, we tore that pretty field up and went home.
Because what was the relationship like between you and Coach Sherrill? Or like, I like fan bases don't want coaches to be friendly with their rival teams. Did you have a good relationship with the Mississippi State coaches, or did you take pride in like being a little arm's length away from them?
Well, this is the last thing I wanted to share with you all about the Egg Bowl for me personally. Now, I wasn't real close to Jackie Sherrill, but when Sylvester Croom was named the first African-American coach in the Southeastern Conference, he and I were at Alabama together and become best of buddies. And I was so thrilled when Larry Templeton hired him. I had tears, but I called Sly and I said, hey, Sly, congratulations, but you and I aren't going to be able to say we love each other anymore. And we had a deep respect. That was my last game to coach at Ole Miss before they let us go, was the Egg Bowl in Oxford versus Coach Croom. And we won the game, but I kind of saw the writing on the wall when I walked off that field. I knew it was probably the last time I was going to walk off that field as a coach. And my hands are getting wet right now. But to hug Sylvester, I didn't want him to hurt, but there was some good feeling that we didn't walk out of there a loser, put it that way. It's a tough year. Mm-hmm. That was the year after Eli graduated, and everything about it was tough, from injuries, et cetera, et cetera. It happens. But that Egg Bowl was some maybe personal vindication for me.
I love that story. And, we talk about grocery store games, right? Like, where you go to the grocery store, somebody's going to let you have it on whether or not you won that game or you lost that game. How about recruiting, Cut? Like, how often did you have some fierce battles in recruiting when it came to guys that decided, hey, Ole Miss or Mississippi State, and trying to go back and forth?
Oh, without a doubt. When we were, that was recruiting. They don't recruit anymore. And one of the things I realized quickly is that you had to dominate the state of Mississippi. We had people cherry picking us. Alabama would come in there and get good players, et cetera. But there were players all throughout the state. And we had camps to bring in just Mississippi kids for the only way you could come to the camp was you're a Mississippi high school player. And Mississippi State, I think, has always done a great job. Southern Mississippi's done a great job. But that was the premium of turning over every stone. And we found so many great players and great people and that I'm still close with today that came from all parts of Mississippi, from the coast to, North Mississippi right below Memphis to the Delta. It's an amazing state for football players. And as I mentioned, my son coaches in it now, so I still follow it. But it's unfortunate that I don't think that intensity exists anymore because you're recruiting beyond the state lines so much more because of name, image, and likeness.
Coach, so I played one game in Starkville at Davis Wade. It was 92. We went there. We lost badly on a Thursday night, the first and last Thursday game of the Florida football program history. I have to imagine it was intense for us. I have to imagine it's next level when Ole Miss comes to town. What was it like playing in that stadium with that sound and all the other, the scoreboard, how loud it is with the speakers so close to the stadium? It's just a setup that's tough, I think, right?
We always played them at night. Okay, Thursday night. That was a Thursday night game for us. What I remember the most, it wasn't just the cowbells. It was who let the dogs out? Who? I mean, it was so loud. And I don't hear them do that anymore. I don't know why they would get away from it, but it was an intense stadium. And I always found that interesting. Neither one of our stadiums are the biggest in the Southeastern Conference, obviously. But when you're playing each other in those settings, it's hard to hear. And I'm going to tell you now, people that haven't experienced the cowbells that are big-time football fans, go. You'll understand what we've talked about all of these years. And I've had two of their games this year as a representative for the conference. And man, when I get up even in the stands or in the press box and I can hear those cowbells, I'm like, this is bad memories here, man.
So, Cut, did y'all have to change because of how loud it was and the cowbells and how ferocious that crowd was on the road? Did y'all have to change anything that week leading up into it to get ready for it?
Yeah, you have to work on. You can go silent cadence. You have to work on that. You don't take I'm a risk avoider when it comes to cadence. I didn't want false starts. So we had to lose, going on a longer count. Just different things there. You obviously had to practice with a lot of noise. And then verbal communication from the quarterback is hard. In other words, we're a team that I've always given the quarterbacks the ability that they can call plays better than me because they're getting it when they see the defense set up. And it made it difficult to do that. We had to use a menu I call it and haul it. You don't change it. We're running it. This is what we do.
There you go.
Coach, last thing I have for you here, you mentioned, your job with the Southeastern Conference requires you to go around to all the different campuses and attend some of these games. Is that the most time you spent in Starkville, Mississippi, since you coached at Ole Miss? I mean, is it all the other Ole Miss people we talked to, like, we got in and got out. We didn't hang around Starkville much. Like, have you been around, and what's the reception from the Mississippi State fans like to you?
You know what? It's been good. I'm serious. I think they respected how we did things, but I've got good friends there now, and I'm close to Coach Levy and his staff, and Mike McIntyre, who worked with us, through the years, is there, and I mean it's just a lot of love, and I've learned that I can do that in all 16 places, and I hadn't felt much hate. Now, it may be around the corner, and I'm not seeing it, but I really haven't felt much of that, and I'm very appreciative of those good people there. The good people at Ole Miss. It was strange to go back there, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
and they honored a couple of our teams, and I did, choose to go back, and that was a lot of fun to be a part of. And that's SEC football. You guys know. I mean, we live it.
Yep.
Bo Jackson said one time, and he's not wrong. I was with him last year at a Cotton Bowl event, that if in the state of Alabama, and this would be true of Mississippi, but in the state of Alabama, if college football were played on Sunday mornings, there'd be no such thing as church. So I hope that's not true, but Bo might be on to something there.
That's another good version of saying it just means more, which is a great tagline for the SEC. I remember when it first came out, people were like, what does that mean? And then everybody like, yep, it truly does just mean more. Cut, my last question for you here about the Egg Bowl itself. Was there a certain player at Mississippi State in that Egg Bowl that when you looked at the scouting report, go, man, how are we going to stop this guy? Or just always had success, or just was like, man, this was just a tough out, or just overall good teams?
I don't think I can pick a player out. I really don't. And I hate to disappoint you with that, but they were so good on defense. Jolie Dunn is the one I pick out, and he wasn't playing. At 8-man front with 3 down, because that's what they were. That was one of the early on kind of a 3-3 stack. They could move to the edge. They had those two, the strong side rover and weak side rover. And all those guys were good players. So I don't even know if I knew names. I just knew nightmares on that side of the ball. And then they were always consistent and did all the little things right, on offense. But Jolie Dunn kept me up at night. Trust me.
Coach, Jolie Dunn is one of those SEC coaches that was all over I played against him when he was at Ole Miss back in the day, and they were doing things that everybody's doing now, long before everybody else was doing anything, with the stand-up guys walking around, how difficult it made it, and everybody said, "Oh, that's not sound. That's not fundamentally the right way to do it." And now everybody's kind of adopted it.
Well, when you got 3 down from most people, that was odd defense. And I finally realized after 1 year with Jolie that no, it was not odd defense. It was another way to play 8-man front. So once we did that, we could declare a mic. We could have the quarterback adjust protections, and it was like, that was one of my best nights sleep, because I think I'm laying in bed when I just visualized it's 8-man front, man. And I couldn't wait to go to the staff and tell them about it the next day. And we had him at Memphis too. Mm-hmm. So Jolie, leave me alone, man.
So, 20 years later, 30 years later, you're sitting there like still getting nightmares from it. So last thing for you, Cut, is we've asked everybody this that's been a part of this great rivalry. Say something nice about your rival. So with that being said, I know you have a lot of love for all of the 16 schools now in your role, but what stands out about Mississippi State?
Well, Mississippi State is a true representative of the state of Mississippi. They recruit and have always recruited Mississippi well. Their young people invest in the state of Mississippi. I love the fact that they educate many of the educators within the state of Mississippi. So, I have great respect for them. And then their fans, they have remained rabid even through some hungry times in their history. So you have to respect a Mississippi State football fan. I really sincerely mean that. And they've been so close this year, it hurts, But I think, Egg Bowl this year is going to be competitive. Yeah. Got a great Ole Miss team, but Mississippi State not laying down for anybody, let alone Ole Miss. It's just the reality.
Especially with the playoff bid potentially on the line. Cut, we appreciate it. This is incredible insight into one of the best rivalries in all of college football. And thanks so much for the insight, all right? Man, Coach Cut, Coach Nutt, all of them, they are so excited about this rivalry, but I'm so excited about our next interview. Maybe one of the most interesting and dynamic players that we've seen that really kind of changed the sport. Here's Dexter McCluster. Now, Dexter, let's start with this, man. When I say Egg Bowl, what comes to mind?
That big trophy, holding it up in Vaught Hemingway, going away with that victory. A lot of great memories, a lot of great moments.
You were from Florida though, so you were not one of these homegrown Mississippians that had one side or the other born into them. What was your indoctrination into this rivalry, and who kind of coached you up on what it really meant?
Yeah, so me being born and raised in Florida, let alone not knowing anything about Ole Miss, I knew nothing about Mississippi. So everything was foreign to me. When I got down there, I was like, man, what is this place, right? But I didn't understand, the rivalry and how big it was until the week of that game, to where everybody's talking about it. It was like, hey, if we don't win this game, the rest of the season does not matter, So I knew when I heard that, I had to bring my A game, no matter what that looked like, to make sure we kept the egg there. So beautiful thing.
And I was going to say, your first year, that game was what, 06, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes,
Was that the first year in the Egg Bowl? And so you guys win that. Did it seem kind of easy at that point, going, hey, this is what you kind of do? Like, walk us through those years that you played in the Egg Bowl.
Well, I guess that first year, I was still young. I was still green. I was still trying to figure it out, 17 years old, about to be 18 years old. So I was a kid trying to make sure that I didn't screw anything up, from whatever game that may look like, But when we won that Egg Bowl, it was a beautiful feeling. It was a good celebration. I believe I got hurt that year. My first year at Ole Miss, so I didn't have a chance, I don't think, to play in that game. But fast forward to my junior year, man, when they came down to Vaught Hemingway, I believe Sylvester Croom was the head coach at that time, I believe. And fast forward, he was my coach, my running back coach with the Titans later on in life. So, cool, great guy. But that game in Vaught Hemingway, 2008, I believe, my junior year.
Yeah, 45-0.
The Wild Rebel, baby, Houston Nutt. He brought that thing over, and I was just the guy for the job. And
so we actually just talked to him about that. He was bragging on you, and he was talking about his brother, and thinking about the idea of putting you at that quarterback spot. Honestly, I mentioned this to Coach Nutt. You guys were doing what a lot of teams are doing now, long before anybody else was doing it, putting your best athlete in a position to affect the outcome of the ball game. Like when he first pitched that to you, what were you thinking?
I'm getting the ball. Put the ball in my hands. I get better with that ball in my hands. So I was excited about that. And I can remember his brother, Coach Danny Nutt, he came to me and said, hey, Clutch, you ever played running back before? I said, yes, sir, all my life. He was like, I'm going to talk to Hugh. I'm going to talk to Houston. We'll see what we can do. And that's when the Wild Rebel was born, man. And he saw something. He saw I was able to, handle the ball, good with the ball in my hands, and vision and seeing what others may not see a little faster. So it worked out for me.
Was there a play that you go back and look at the years that you played it, either in a win or a loss, that you remember from the Egg Bowl that stands out to this day, Dexter?
A play that I remember going back to my junior year. It was Brandon Bolden at the quarterback in the Wild Rebel, and I was the motion guy on the left side. He sent me a motion. He caught it, gave me the ball, and it was wide open down the right sideline. I remember just saying, run, 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 don't stop, and dove in the end zone, and we laugh about it. Sorry about that. We laugh about it all the time, to where I dove in the end zone and I kept sliding. So it looks pretty funny. I thought it would be cool, me diving in the end zone, but it looked pretty goofy. But we scored a touchdown, so that's a moment that I remember, about that.
So Dexter, tell me the difference, because it seems like very different environments when that game is being played in Vaught Hemingway versus Davis Wade Stadium. What was the experience like going into Starkville and playing there versus playing at home against them?
Yeah, I can remember my senior year going down there. My dad flew in, my mom flew in, I believe my grandmother. So going down to Starkville, I was excited. Senior year, I knew how important it was at this moment, because now I've been in Mississippi for 4 years, so I know this is the game of all games. So when we got there, we didn't win the game, but I believe I might have scored maybe one touchdown. I scored on the screenplay. But it was just hearing those freaking cowbells. I'm like, man, this is ridiculous, and it sounds louder when it's in their stadium, right? So I'm like, you know what? We got to shut these cowbells up.
How close were you to going to anywhere else other than Ole Miss at the time?
Very close. I was darn near in the door. When I was 17 years old, my senior year of high school, it wasn't ideal, but I had my first child, who's in a sophomore year in college now. But at that time, I'm a kid, so I thought the right thing to do is, stay home in Tampa, commit to South Florida. That way I can be a father and just do what I got to do, right? So I guess at that moment, fast forwarding to now, it's like, man, that's a big responsibility, and I was willing to do whatever. So that just showed who I was as a person, my character, or just being willing to give my all for whatever. So I think that translated over to the field. But Ed Ogeron and Hugh Freeze, they gave me a call and was like, hey, can we come sit in your living room and talk to you? So I'm like, you know what? Why not? Because at that point, I closed down all of my visits and everything. I was going to South Florida. I was going to stay home and take care of my family. And they convinced me in the living room we're throwing pillows. Ed Ogeron's telling me how I remind him of Reggie Bush. And I'm an energy guy, so I'm like, oh, yeah, I want to go down and see what this Hotty Toddy is talking about, right? So got on the plane. My official visit, Jason Cook was our fullback at the time. He was my host, showed me around. I had a great time. So by the time I got back to Memphis and got on that plane to fly back to Tampa, I looked at my dad. I said, Dad, I think I know where I want to go. And he was like, where? And I said, Ole Miss. And he was like, well, if you feel this way, when we land, let's talk about it. And we'll, do it the right way, make the call to South Florida and let them know, thank you, we appreciate it. But here we are. So basically telling me, hey, you know what? This is your decision, biggest decision in your life. If this is what you want, I'm all in. And when I got home, I said, Dad, I'm going to Ole Miss. And the rest is literally history. Great history at that.
Yeah.
Dexter, it's funny because I've talked to a couple other Ole Miss players that said, look, I've never been back to Starkville since playing there. They want to get in and out as quick as they can. It was not a hospitable environment for them. Have you spent much time in Starkville? Have you been back since you've played there and your playing days are over?
I have not been back to Starkville, but I do have a Starkville story. It involves my father, and he's probably going to hear this and laugh at this, and I was on the plane like, no, Dad. But anyways, obviously, we lost that game, right? So emotions are high. We're just trying to get back on the bus and everything. So said goodbye to my mom and dad, and, obviously the Starkville fans, the other team, they were giving my dad some crap and talking crap. So my dad had my 22 jersey on, so he took it off. And I'm on the bus now, right? And I'm looking like I see my dad just running around showing the jersey to everybody. I'm like, what is this man doing, right? So out of nowhere, somebody from Mississippi State grabbed the jersey out of my dad's hand at that moment. And if you can imagine, I felt like a little kid. I said, Dad, no. Because I saw my dad wind up and something just clicked. And I guess he was like, you know what? I'm in Starkville right now. I got to get back home to Florida. I'm going to leave it alone. But Coach, I wonder if Coach Nutt remembers that. He was like, man, I like that fire, man. I like that. I was like, yeah, that was a moment where I was like, I'm glad he took a deep breath and didn't make that happen. But, yeah, so I have not been to Starkville since.
Dexter, last thing that we've been doing with everybody is finding out the opposite side of this equation. So, in closing, say something nice about Mississippi State football.
Say something nice about Mississippi State football. Okay.
Anything. A player, a friend you've become close with?
I'm a high school football coach now. I've been coaching for 4 years. I coach at Franklin High School, and we wear the burgundy that they wear. So I would say this. It looks good on me in high school. At Franklin High.
One of the legends. He's Dexter McCluster. Dexter, we appreciate the time. Some great insight on one of the best rivalries in college football, and you damn sure made it one of the highlights in that. We appreciate the time, Dexter.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
I really wish Dexter had more years of eligibility. He changed all of college football, CD.
The wild rebel himself, and now everybody's using some sort of version of put your best athlete at the quarterback position and let him go. He was an original.
A great insight on the Ole Miss side of that historic rivalry. Now, remember, there is an episode on the Mississippi State side of it. We got a chance to talk to Jackie Sherrill, Daniel Boyd, who's the team doctor for Ole Miss and a former Mississippi State linebacker, and Dan Mullen as well. So make sure you go and check that out as well. This wraps up another edition of Regions Extra SEC Stories.